Alright guys, welcome to the first exclusive video, the first of many that we'll be putting out over the coming months. So to kick things off, we're going to keep it simple. It's a UFC 288 prediction video. We're taking the featured prelim and the entire main card. So let's just not waste any more time. Drew Dober versus Matt Frivola. I knew that I liked Matt Frivola as soon as I saw him fight Lando Venata, who's another personal favourite of mine. And while in the time since he has won some and lost some, his knockout of Otman Azaitar is a hell of a win to be coming off of. But Drew Dober is without question the chinniest fighter in MMA today, and not in the sense that he's easy to hurt, quite the opposite actually. And I expect Dober and his massive chin to win this fight. Frivola gets hit, and I do think that we're going to get a brawl here, a fight that is probably the most fight of the night-ish looking bout on paper. With his last 6 wins all coming by KO or TKO, I have Drew Dober by second round knockout. Gracie versus Charles Jourdain. Gracie kinda went and just disappeared there for a while. I was excited to see how he would do back in 2019, when he was given that step up in competition against Cub Swanson, but it just didn't go his way. He looked pretty limited in his MMA skill set and its development. The question I have is what he has been doing in the time since, and what has made him decide to come back now. With minimal data to go off of and like 4 years of inactivity, I'm going to make the safe pick here and back Jourdain to overturn his losing streak with a decision victory. It's a tough fight to call given how little we've seen of Gracie, but I just think that ring rust and an underdeveloped MMA skill set is not a good mix. Movsar versus Bryce Mitchell. This next one is a pretty excellent featherweight pairing, a fight that will no doubt see its victor get a top 10 test next time around. Both guys are very good on the mat, with Bryce's submission skills and Evloev's overbearing physicality and control being their greatest strengths respectively. I just don't think this is a good fight for Bryce Mitchell. We've seen him have success in every area of the fight in stylistic clashes that were more catered to him having the advantage on the mat, against guys who were fearful of the takedown. But here I can see Evloev having enough in his game to avoid Mitchell's best attempts at submitting or sweeping him. And on the feet, while on paper it might be even, I think the actual matchup of physicality is going to tip things quite heavily in Movsar's favour. I have him taking all 3 rounds to a unanimous decision victory. Jessica Andrade versus Yan Xiaonan. Jessica Andrade had a tough night out at flyweight last time when she took on the great rising talent that is Erin Blanchfield, but that was a short notice gig, and with her now returning at strawweight, she has the chance to reinsert her name into a title discussion that's full of big fights for her. Yan Xiaonan is an interesting choice of opponent though, and her win over Mackenzie Dern last time around showed that she is certainly closing out some of the holes in her game, but I don't think she'll have much for Andrade here. I would worry about how immobile she is on the feet, how there for the taking she is, and I think Jessica's physicality is going to be too much for her. So I'm going to say that Andrade hurts her and finds the submission in round 3. Belal Muhammad versus Gilbert Burns. It's not the Charles Oliveira Beneil Dariush co-main event we were originally going to get, but all things considered, the UFC did pretty well to put together a fight of such importance within such a popular division on short notice. Burns is making a pretty rapid turnaround here, rebounding after just 4 weeks to try and follow up his Jorge Masvidal win in Miami with what would be a 3rd consecutive victory. That is most certainly some title shot form right there, but Belal Muhammad is clearly the fighter of the two who is in the process of making his rise. Burns isn't getting any younger, and given that he has already fought for the belt, you'd be forgiven for thinking that this was Belal Muhammad's coming out fight, wrapped up with a pretty bow on top. But I don't think that's the case. In fact, not at all. Muhammad does a lot of things quite well, but Gilbert is going to be truly dangerous in several key battles here. And for someone like Belal who likes to dip into his wrestling or to employ volume striking on the feet, Gilbert is going to have advantages in grappling and punching power by a considerable distance, and I think that makes him a nightmare matchup for Belal, and the short notice nature of this fight is going to favour Burns in this respect, because he is going to be more comfortable in more key areas over this 5-round fight than Muhammad will be. Yes, the 25-minute duration could be interesting, it could play into Belal's game, but given that it's short notice, who knows what type of shape he's in, especially from the way he's been talking, and I don't know where he carves out advantages to really wear on Burns's gas tank. I think Gilbert is going to stun him badly on the feet and maybe find a way to a submission on the mat. So I'm going to go with a 2nd round submission for Gilbert Burns, one that really makes his title shot argument clear cut. Aljamain Sterling versus Henry Cejudo. And finally we come to the main event. For me, there is a big head or heart divide happening here. My head tells me that Sterling's activity of late, his clear progression, as well as his long frame for the division and underrated striking, will give Henry some issues. Aljo is without question one of the most underrated fighters in the UFC period. And while it is easy to look at his lower moments and point to them for insight into how to predict his fights, I'd urge you to recall that Petr Yan rematch, and how well Sterling managed to deal with all of that pressure, all of that doubt. The dude is a great fighter, and if I'm betting with my head, I think the inactivity and even the age of the 36-year-old Cejudo is going to make defeating a prime fighter like Aljamain Sterling a bridge too far. But I'm still not sure that I'm ready to discount what my heart is telling me on this one. In my opinion, Henry Cejudo is in a bit of a grey area in terms of true greatness in MMA. I've always had a difficult time placing his achievements within the context of any GOAT conversation, but the dude beat Demetrius Johnson when he was untouchable, and won bantamweight gold by pulling off a truly remarkable mid-fight tactical switch-up against a prime Marlon Moraes, who was an absolute monster lest we forget. The Cruz and Dillashaw wins were nice too, but there are asterisks there. That stretch is a pretty remarkable run, with those two fights in particular, his title-winning performances, as good as anything you'll ever see. Sure, Dominic Cruz was old and beat up, and TJ was taking a weight cut that was just ridiculous. But on one day, Henry is in my top 12 or 13 greatest fighters of all time. On another, he's not even in the top 20. But that's more so down to what he didn't do in his prime than anything else. I actually believe that Henry Cejudo is greater than he has shown us, I'll put it that way. And I believe that he's coming back for a reason, because he knows that even the advances of age aren't enough to stop him from reclaiming his belt. And I think that if I predict this one with my heart, this man's greatness will shine through. He has the wrestling indeed, and I think his striking is going to be a very interesting tool against Sterling. The darting karate style movement he adopted, it could spell trouble, and to be honest, I think that Cejudo is going to wear on Aljo, and eventually I think he's going to get him out of there through the build-up of hard strikes on the feet. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to say Henry Cejudo by 4th round knockout for a victory that seals his place among the top 10 greatest fighters of all time. It's a heart over head pick indeed, but even as I put it out there, it just feels right. But what do you make of this card as a whole, and how do you see each of these fights playing out? Do let us know what you think, and as always, thank you for watching.